Welcome back. Today we're going to look at functions in detail. We have seen functions in previous videos, but today we're going into more depth. So to begin with, we're going to create a new FLA file, just a normal Flash file, and then an ActionScript file, which is your .as file. So let's go to New, ActionScript. I'll just accept the defaults. Okay, I'll save that one immediately. I'm going to save it as functions. And then I go to my properties. So make sure I'm selected off the stage and then go to properties. And then I can add a document class. So for that, I'll call it the same thing, functions with a capital S, press enter, get the warning, click OK, and then go to edit class definition, which is the pencil icon. Okay, there we are, and I'll just say, well, to begin with, so that'll save the functions ActionScript file, the .as file as well. Okay, so we're looking at functions. So we've already talked about this special function called the constructor, and we know it's a constructor because it's the same, the function name is the same as the class name. Okay, so we're going to look at two different types of function. But first, let's put in some code that we're going to use for testing. So we've used our trace function before. So trace itself is a function, and we're just going to say hello. Still using very simple examples, but all these simple examples and functionality, they build up to something more complex when you start creating your own games. We've got trace, hello. Now, instead of having the function's constructor, which is a function, rather than having the constructor say hello with the trace statement, we're going to call a function to say hello. So we're going to create a new function. We'll make this function public. So this function would be able to be called by other classes, but don't worry about that just yet. So we're going to say public function say hello. Okay, and we're going to give it a return type of void. And we also need the braces there. Okay, have a look at the function signature, is what we call this. We'll have a look at the function signature in more detail. So public, as I've just said, it's about this function is able to be called by other classes. We've got the function keyword, which is necessary. Then we've got the function name. And generally with your function names, you should have a verb, noun, naming convention. And in our brackets here, we haven't got anything at the moment. Then we've got our type. So the colon indicates that we're looking at types. And the type of this function is void. So void, we have mentioned this before, void means this function is not going to return a value. And when we say return a value, we mean we will call this function within our constructor, and once we do call the say hello function, then we're not going to use any values from that function. Hopefully that makes sense shortly. Okay, so public function say hello void, and then our braces, and all we're going to do is move this trace statement into here, just fix up the indentation and the white space as well, just to make it neat. And so this is our completed function. We've declared a function which is simply going to say hello. Now, that's the first part. We've declared the function. Now we're going to call the function. So declaration of a function, and then you call the function. So to call the function, we just enter the function name, followed, in this case, by two empty brackets and semicolon. Okay, so just to make sure everything's functioning at the moment, we'll run that, Control Enter. Okay, and it says hello, exactly what we expected. Now, this is the first type of function. It doesn't return a value. Also, in brackets, we're not passing any values to this function, say hello. It's not receiving any information from our constructor. So we're going to modify this function. Actually, we'll keep several copies of this function. Now, this isn't the best naming convention for these additional functions I'm writing at the moment, but it's just so we can see the differences in different types of functions. So we've just copied say hello, and we're calling it say hello to. Now, this time, we'll comment out this one up here in our constructor. This time, instead of not passing any values from our constructor, this function here, we are going to pass a value to the say hello to function. So say hello to, and we're going to pass it a name of someone. So let's pass the name of Bob. So Bob. So in our call to this function, we're passing the value Bob, which is a text string. Now we have to modify this say hello to function so that it can accept a name. Now I'm not going to type in name. There we are. Because as you can see, it's a reserved word because it's bright blue. Instead, I might abbreviate it to NM, so NM for name. And the type of the name is going to be a string. So capital S, string. Okay, so say hello to within the brackets here, we're going to pass a name variable of the string type. Okay, so this here is what they call a parameter. So this function here didn't have any parameters. Say hello 1, we could say. The first say hello function did not have any parameters. But this function, say hello 2, is going to accept a string parameter called nm. Okay, and we're going to modify this function as well. And so instead of saying just hello, we're going to add we'll add a comma and a space within the quotes. And then we're going to use the plus symbol. So the plus symbol in this case does not mean addition because we're going to join two strings. What the trace statement is going to say is hello, whatever name you pass to the function. So let's save that and run it. Okay, now our output is hello Bob. So go back to this function. Okay, so we pass Bob up here. When we called the function and passed it the value of Bob, the parameter is nm in this function, and we simply say trace hello plus, which is concatenation, they call it when you join two strings together. So this is a string, nm is a string. So we've joined these two strings together and then used the trace function to display it in the output. That's our second type of function. Well, not really a second type of function, but it's different to the first in that it's got a parameter. Really, our second type of function, we're going to write, typing it out this time, public function say hello 3. We'll pass it a parameter, this same parameter. However, rather than having a return type of void like we've got here, we're going to return a string. And we'll see why we're going to do that shortly. Okay, so say hello 3 still gets a parameter called nm, which stands for name, and it's of a string type, but we're going to return a string back to our constructor up here. Okay, so I will complete the function first and then I'll go back to the constructor. So I'm completing the declaration of the function now. Okay, so we're going to type the keyword return. Okay, I'll finish the statement first and then I'll talk about what that means. So return, and we're going to say hello again, hello comma space plus for concatenation, and then nm. So we're still joining hello and the name that we pass in. Now what we might want to do, it's quite common, just so we know exactly what we're returning, we're going to put in brackets. So we're going to have one bracket there, round bracket, and another round bracket there. So you don't have to do that, you don't have to put in these brackets, but it's useful to know that what we're returning is within the brackets. Okay, so this return statement, return means that whatever follows the return statement to the right is what we're going to return from the function back to the calling function. Okay, so let's see the calling function first and complete the explanation. So say hello 3, still passing Bob, same name. What we'll do a trace. So we've actually now, let's break this down. I'll put in some extra white space. You don't need to put in this white space, these two spaces here and here. What we're doing though in this function now is we're calling say hello 3 and passing the text string Bob. And when we get down to here, say hello 3, we're returning the string. We're returning a string, and we know we're returning a string because we've got this string return type here. We're returning hello, comma, space, plus the name that's passed in. We're returning it back to here. Okay, so this bit of code here once the function is run, will contain hello, comma, Bob, and then we're going to trace out what's returned by this function. So let's see this in action. Control Enter again. Okay, same output, exactly same output. I'm just going to add some comments here, just for your reference, to help understand what we call this the function signature, but to help to break down the function signature a bit more, I'm going to put in a comment just here. So you have this public, you've also seen private before. This is what they call the visibility. Now we'll talk about visibility later, but basically the first part is public-private, the very first word here. Then we've got the function keyword, and then we've got the function name, and we generally with the function name will be, generally the function name will be a verb noun combination. So I'm adding that in as well, not always of course. And now the nm string is capital S for string, because Flash is case sensitive. Nm string, now I'm just putting a hyphen there, is parameter to the function. And last final thing there, other than the braces of course, is return type. So we're returning a string. Oops. Okay, return type. So to understand functions in detail, you really need to run them. You need to create or declare many functions and also call those functions, and you need to practice that a lot. So have a go at this code.